Thanks so much, Aaron. Well, Rishi Sunak was expecting a frosty reception from journalists when he stepped out to announce he was watering down some of the government's climate pledges. But he might not have expected one question from the Sun newspaper about whether he was planning to axe HS2 between Birmingham and Manchester. The Prime Minister refused to comment on the suggestion, and it's now fuelled rumours that the northern link of the high-speed railway line is indeed facing the chop. Well, one person who might welcome that announcement is Christopher Snowdon from the IEA, who joins me now, as does Frank McKenna, the CEO of Downtown in Business. Frank, I'm going to start with you, because this HS2 has been going on now. Well, it's been announced, I think, about 20 years ago. It seems to be increasing in cost all of the time. We're told now an extra £8 billion. Surely it's becoming unaffordable, is it not?
I think there's a reaction in the north of a combination, really, of bewilderment and anger because of what we've seen here, if this decision is to be reversed, is something that is anti-business, anti-ambition, anti-growth, certainly anti-north, anti-business. And the government say they're pro all of those things. Anger because you say, Arlene, that the costs of these things have increased. Well, it's taken an age for us to get this big infrastructure project off the ground. It takes the UK, it seems, an age to do anything that's significant in terms of driving our economy forward. And so the anger comes about on the basis of its poor planning processes that, and I have to say, basically playing into the NIMBYism that we have in this country that increases these costs significantly. And what you're going to end up with is an absolute chasm between the north and the south. We've already got a north-south divide. This is going to increase that. If I tell you, Arlene, that at the moment we pay over £1,300, invest £1,300 per head if you're a Londoner. If you live in Newcastle, you get £448 investment in your public transport system. It is absolutely outrageous that the Prime Minister, when he's talking about growth, he's talking about ambition, he's talking about the UK having some sort of frontier of entrepreneurialism going forward, is absolutely stymieing the ability of people in the north to actually achieve any of those things. We are absolutely outraged. I'm sure you can get from my sentiments this morning how angry we are. And, you know, it's okay saying, where's the money coming from? The same time he's saying we can't find money for HS2, he's offering massive cuts in inheritance tax. You know, people are saying to Liz Truss 6 months ago, 12 months ago, well, you can afford to give people £250,000 who earn £250,000 a tax cut. So we can afford to do that, but we can't afford to give people the tools in the north of England to actually level up our economy. As I say, absolutely outraged. It's a disgraceful decision and an abandonment of the commitment that the government made in 2019 to that levelling up agenda.
So, Christopher, it's anti-growth, it's anti-vision. What's your response to what Frank has had to say? Certainly, it looks as if levelling up is in a bit of a disaster now.
Well, I actually agree with a great deal of what Frank was saying. I think one of the lessons of this farce has been to show people how difficult it is to build anything, to get anything done in this country, and how badly we're governed. I also agree about the woeful state of the railways in the north of England. Where I disagree is that I don't think that spending 100 billion plus on a slightly faster train to London is the best use of money or the best way to improve public transport in the north of England. You know, the budget for this 13 years ago was £33 billion. We at the IEA put out a report 10 years ago saying it was going to be £80 billion. It looks like it's now going to be at least £100 billion. It's not going to Leeds, it's probably not going to Manchester, not even going to central London. It's going to the outskirts of London, and all for the sake of shaving 20 or 30 minutes off a journey to London. This is not a great way of levelling up, and it's a terrible way of spending public money. The whole thing has been an absolute scandal. How we've managed to spend virtually the entire initial budget of £33 billion already without actually managing to build much of a railway. The whole thing, in my opinion, should be scrapped. The best time to scrap it would have been 13 years ago. The second time is always now.
Yeah, but Christopher, I mean, you've described some of the issues with getting this railway line going in terms of shovels in the ground, as I would say. But there's been problems with planning. There are always risks of newts appearing or something else appearing that doesn't allow it to take place. Surely those are the issues that we should be dealing with, not the connectivity of the north of the country. Surely that should be a priority. Certainly, for me, living in Northern Ireland, connectivity is so incredibly important for the whole of the UK. And so I have a lot of sympathy for Frank talking about the need to have better connectivity for the north of the country.
And Arlene, can I just say...
Just go to Chris first. Sorry, Frank. Just go to Chris and then I'll come back to you. Absolutely. Chris.
I think you can do both at once. I think we can look at some of these planning restrictions and deal with the NIMBYism in this country and excessive protection of newts and so on, while also prioritising the best forms of interconnectivity. It's not all about intercity rail. Intercity rail isn't great in this country, but you can get from London to Birmingham on a very regular basis in 2 hours. You can get to Manchester in 2 hours 45. Yeah, in a perfect world of limitless resources, it would be nice to shave 25 minutes off those journeys. But we do not live in a world of limitless resources. On the contrary, we're in an enormous amount of debt. If we're going to spend anything like this amount of money on public transport in the north of England, we should be interconnecting the towns there rather than trying to get people in and out of London a bit faster.
Frank, what's your reaction to what Chris has had to say about better connectivity across the north as opposed to just north-south?
Yeah, well, the first thing I'd say is this is not about shaving 20 minutes off the journey. This is about capacity, about people like me who travel regularly from the south being able to get a seat, get a train on a regular from Liverpool or Manchester down to Manchester. In terms of intercity connectivity across the north, well, that's jammed tomorrow, because I haven't seen any industrial strategy from Rishi Sunak or any of his cabinet team that suggests that we're going to get a replacement line across the north. Of course, that's what we want. We want both. Why should we have to choose between having good connectivity between Leeds, Liverpool, Manchester, Newcastle, and then say, but if you want to go to London, you might not be able to get a seat, and that's even if you can get on a train at the time that you want. The other thing that people forget, because they talk about this as a passenger transport initiative, but of course the other thing it is it enables us to take an awful lot of freight off the roads, freeing our motorways. It's a win-win-win situation, this. This is investment. And when, again, you talk about £100 billion, we talk about this as though, it's £100 billion for an initiative that's going... This is £1 billion a year. Basically, look at it in those terms. It's £1 billion a year because this rail system will last us for at least 100 years. So this is basically an ask from the north, from business leaders, and indeed from business leaders in London as well, to say that if this little island of the United Kingdom can't even connect itself efficiently, then how can we seriously go onto the international stage and say we're open for business? It's a joke, Arlene, an absolute joke. And I hope that after the furore that has been caused over the weekend, business leaders coming out criticising this decision, politicians of all colours coming out criticising this decision. Again, the papers had believed this morning a potential cabinet resignation. I hope he rethinks this decision because it's a really bad one.
And Christopher, just finally then, surely Frank's right about our standing in the world. If we can't even build a railway line connecting some of our major cities in the UK, surely that speaks to some sort of lack of vision, inability to deliver large infrastructure projects. Or is it the case that we've just run out of money?
It's both again. Look, it's a national embarrassment that's even got to this stage. The cost has spiraled so far out of control that it's not starting or ending where it was supposed to. But you can't just keep throwing good money after bad. There's never been a very good business case for HS2, even when it was estimated to cost 30 or 40 billion pounds. There certainly isn't one that's estimated to cost 100 billion pounds. There are so many better ways of spending this money. Look, I'm in favour of high-speed rail. I'm in favour of big infrastructure projects. I wish we could do them. The reality is the Transport and Infrastructure Authority has said this is unachievable. The whole thing is unachievable. And all the evidence of the last 13 years, unfortunately, proves that is correct.
Well, huge thank you to both of you for coming on. That's Christopher Snowdon and Frank McKenna, who joined me to discuss HS2 and what's going to happen next. Well, in a few minutes, we'll be talking to the CEO of Stamp Out Spiking, who has managed to get her campaign stamped on the international calendar.
A brighter outlook with Boxed Solar. Proud sponsors of Weather on GB